Hello everyone and welcome to The Backroads. I am honored to be your cruise director, Kristen, through this brand new format and brand new style of video, and I hope you like it. We've gone to a lot of amazing destinations over the last 7 years together. I think it's time we went on the journey too. In 2022, I decided to take the plunge and do something really scary. I geared up and hit the road on a trike and fell in love with the wind and the open road.
Well, I lived.
Me and my Riker spent 11,000 miles together, and we even went on some mall trips. This is gonna be my motorcycle, my first two-wheel motorcycle. 18 months later, I lost a wheel and doubled down and had to learn everything all over again. It hasn't been easy, and after practicing and practicing and practicing some more, I was finally ready to take the road trips I dreamed of the first time I hit the ignition.
Are you good?
The shopping center we're passing by right now was once an enclosed mall, St. Albans Mall, which opened in 1975. It was originally anchored by the Kroger and former Kmart we can see today, as well as a Cox's department store. There's not much worth checking out there as it has been fully demalled, but that's a fun fact to start our trip on a familiar note. So to give you an idea of the plans for today, we're headed east on US 60, a road that runs through Huntington where I live, and we're going over to Charleston to check out a few quirky things over there before heading down to Beckley to check out a couple malls. Cool? Everybody got snacks and drinks? Don't fight over the iPad, kids, or Mama Cruise Director will turn this bike around. Riding has made me stronger than I ever believed possible, but it hasn't made me any taller. But if I can't have a sense of humor about it, well, I'd be a lot less fun. Let's all laugh at my misfortune as my 4'11" self has to duck walk this bike forward so we can get the light to change. Every time I'd ride through Jefferson on the way to wherever I was headed that day, I always got the distinct feeling something went on here. Most of the towns along 60 between Huntington and Charleston are pretty neat and tidy, and then you get to Jefferson and the vibe changes. You can see all along here that there are stores that used to be something else, more middle-class offerings like a WT Grant in a Value City, and until a month or two ago, there was an enormous 70s or 80s Days Inn that seemed like it was built to welcome a lot of visitors at one time, so why is it like this now? Over the last 25 years or so, a lot of the reason for that was taxes and not wanting to have to pay them. Jefferson had a reputation for being a sort of vice district, home to adult-oriented businesses of all stripes through the 80s through the 2000s, and a little of that is still here. Locally, it earned the nickname the Badlands. In the late 90s, discussion began of South Charleston or St. Albans annexing Jefferson and making them part of their tax base. Well, the business leaders of the town wanted nothing to do with that, so they incorporated as an independent district in March of 1997 to continue making money in whatever gritty way they saw fit without the interference of more decent types. Jefferson was profiled on The Daily Show in 2001 in a segment called Downtown. This was a tongue-in-cheek take, of course, but the mayor at the time was interviewed for the segment, a woman named Kathy Wolf, who ran for mayor with the explicit purpose of dissolving the town because it's messed up, she said. She got her wish on February 21st, 2007, when the town was officially unincorporated. There aren't really a lot of residents. The 2010 census says that Jefferson had a population of 676 people and has 257 housing units. The other numbers are pretty grim. In 2000, the median income for men was only $12,202. In 2021, 71.7% of the residents were living below the poverty line, compared with 16% for the state of West Virginia as a whole. The people left in Jefferson are built of sterner stuff, it would seem. It's got to be a rough place to try and make it work, but people are doing it. But my goodness, how far do they have to go to find a grocery store? You know you're in Charleston when you reach the Mound District, a colorful cluster of shops and businesses behind this Adena burial mound that acts as a sort of neighborhood square. It's full of international treasures, as most of this section of road is. Charleston has a lot of charm to me, and I think it's because everything looks older. In many ways, it's like stepping back in time to the 70s or 80s, just see so many of these vintage-styled storefronts with their original signs, and it's just an interesting city to drive or ride through. The people are nice, the shops are vintage, and they honestly have a really cute downtown. What's not to love? I come over here a lot just to ride around, go shopping, explore, fuel up both my bike and my body for the road ahead. Charleston is sort of my gateway to the more wild and wonderful parts of the state, and I love it for that. We are crossing the mighty Kanawha River, which is spelled thusly, and that's said Kanawha, not Kanahaw, not Kanawha, Kanawha. Actually, not just the Kanawha River, but we're getting ready to turn onto Kanawha Boulevard in Kanawha County. In fact, the state of West Virginia itself was nearly named Kanawha when they split from the Confederacy and formed a new state. Speaking of vintage storefronts you don't see every day, off to our right is an honest-to-God drug emporium, of which there are 3 locations in West Virginia. Sadly, they began their going-out-of-business sale recently, so they aren't long for this world, but what a blast from the past. They didn't change a thing from their heyday, and I'm honestly going to miss them. They had a lot of old classic perfumes and beauty products you don't find everywhere. Now, this is one of the unusual things I've seen a few times coming out to Charleston, and I took the time to stop and see it today. This minuscule museum, and this is all it is, pays tribute to one Alex Schoenbaum, who opened a drive-in restaurant called the Parquet on this spot in 1947. The Parquet was an early adopter of a newly franchised burger brand, the Big Boy. Schoenbaum was among the first 3 investors to take Big Boy national. One franchisee is now known as Frisch's around southern Ohio, the other in Pittsburgh became Eaton Park, and Schoenbaum began selling Big Boy hamburgers in 1952. The Parquet ran a contest in the 50s to come up with a new name as they began to expand. And you know this chain not as the Parquet, but as Shoney's due to the winning entry. If you're thinking looking at these photos that Mr. Schoenbaum looks like a football player, you would be correct. He played football for the Ohio State Buckeyes before coming to Charleston to open a restaurant and found an empire that later included Captain D's Seafood and Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. He passed away in 1996, almost 50 years after founding his hospitality empire. His name lives on not only as the remaining locations of Shoney's, but also in the form of many places named in his honor, due in part to his wife's charitable and civic endeavors in Charleston, including the Schoenbaum Soccer Stadium and the Schoenbaum Family Enrichment Center. His family also operates a scholarship fund in his honor. Mrs. Betty Schoenbaum, his wife, passed away in 2018 at the ripe old age of 100. Just more Charleston vibes, man. There's nothing finer. A nice sunny day and a scoot down Kanawha Boulevard to McCorkle and you've got a happy girl. I don't know why people complain about this town so much. I just love it. Now, if we were to turn right here, you'd find the labyrinth of drywall that is now Charleston Town Center. Not worth a stop these days. R.I.P. to that fountain and those aesthetics. So this one I read about on Facebook. It's a retro prototype McDonald's that I couldn't find a whole lot of information about, sadly. It closed in September of 2023 abruptly and was sold to U-Haul last year. Most of the build dates I can find for this prototype McDonald's design opened between 2000 and 2004, but I can't nail down when this specific one opened. Sometimes when you take trips like this and plan stops, they don't always pan out, and I debated whether to include this at all because I didn't know it had been painted gray. But I feel like this is an important piece of pop culture history, you know? Maybe not a whole video's worth, but it's neat to see. The building itself, while somewhat camouflaged, is cool though. From this angle, it kind of looks like a crab. I've always been kind of fascinated by abandoned plans, canceled projects, and failed endeavors, especially when they come from a big corporation. They tried. I guess you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So here's a fun fact. Riding a motorcycle burns about 200 calories an hour, and you gotta eat for safety. So when I found out about this very retro Piggly Wiggly, I had to make a stop because, well, I needed supplies, and I was told by a very good friend it was a cute place to visit, and when a friend says it's worth a stop, you go. We're doing something a little different today. We're gonna find out what happens when retail history and revving engines collide. I'm at the Piggly Wiggly on Beckley Avenue in Charleston, West Virginia. I kind of love grocery stores. I've alluded to this in the past, but both my parents worked in the grocery industry, and I spent a lot of time in them as a kid. And when we traveled, I remember getting to go to an unusual grocery store the way other kids remember Disney World. I have kind of a little bit of an ulterior motive for being in here. I need something to drink and a snack. What I want to know is how that enormous googly eye ended up on the wall above the meat department. Were there once two of them? Who put it there? And I need video. I want to see how it got there. Jerky. This ceiling is really cool. It's such a 90s touch. Again, I just love forgotten ordinary things from before, things we've forgotten about, which is why I got my start making films about malls to begin with. Absolutely no lies spoken. But we have places to be, so let's head on down the road a piece and take a proper break. Next to is Shoney's. Shout out to Mr. Schoenbaum and Shoney Bear too. Well, we made it out of Charleston alive. And the next part's going to be a little difficult because I don't like to take the highway. This show's actually called the back road, so it would be kind of stupid for me to take 64 down there. Plus, I don't want to pay the tolls, so we're going to go down some twisty mountain roads. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be kind of scary. I'm still fairly new to this, so Go 30 minutes outside what passes for a major city here, and this is what you'll find. The hills are always watching you. They're always there. We just build towns and cities where there's enough flat land to accommodate, and everything between is just verdant, green, imposing mountains. Always there. Like titans or guardians. You want to believe they're there to protect you as you travel through them. I mean, this is nature as God intended, and as long as you don't mean any harm, you hope that they'll just let you pass through as long as all you take is photos and all you leave is tire tracks. Country roads will take you home, but mountain roads will make you feel alive. Every town a tucked away treasure, a gas station with the very best food you've ever had. Honestly, a lot of gas stations around here have delis and boiled peanuts and biscuits and gravy. You're going to see train track, coal elevators, old churches from the 70s you'd love to see the inside of. They call it wild and wonderful, and it is indeed that. It feels like the last wild place in the country. As an aside, I'm the only one in my family that rides, so I've never experienced what it's like to go for a ride with my dad, but this stranger on a Goldwing gave me a taste of what that would be like. You make a lot of 10-mile friends in this hobby, and Goldwing guy, I appreciate you. You were cool with a scrappy little new rider following you, and I hope your trip down the road we're approaching was everything you hoped it would be. Right on, brother. It's time to pull in for a break, a drink, and a few minutes to stretch my legs before we embark on an unexpected part of the adventure. My husband likes to accuse me of not liking to take chill rides, and this was supposed to be a chill ride down to a mall in Beckley. And like we said at the last stop, I set it to avoid highways. And well, this is a phenomenon that you may not quite be familiar with in Kentucky, West Virginia, and Tennessee if you haven't really come here much. So apparently we're gonna ride the Talon today. What is the Talon? You get bragging rights if you can ride down it on a motorcycle. And here's the thing, I've been down the Talon before, but I did it on a Riker. I have not actually gone down any of these like named roads other than the Slingshot in Kentucky on my new motorcycle. And I'm debating right now whether that's actually something I want to do or not, but I think I can. I think I'm ready. I think I can do this. I also failed to mention, when I went down the Slingshot, I was with a big group of my girls. This time, I was alone, with spotty cell service. Truthfully, I only rode about 4.5 miles of the Talon before I turned off and headed to my destination. But I did it, and the road between here and Beckley was no straighter either. I took it slow, steady, nice and easy, but I was able to do it and I didn't really panic either. I've been down the tail of the Dragon in Tennessee, but that was, again, on a Riker, a little trike that didn't lean, but sometimes you gotta feel the fear and do it anyway. That's called courage, and I'm proud to say that I had courage in tackling this road. It's just one of those things you've gotta do to prove to yourself you can. Being a small rider new to motorcycling, this definitely tested my mettle, but I made it. 50 miles and 75 minutes later, I pulled into Crossroads Mall ready to stretch my legs and enjoy some retail history therapy, and she did not disappoint. My first thought pulling in here was, what was this Rural King before it was a Rural King? I love the entrance, and anything asymmetrical is just chef's kiss. Turns out it was a Sears, an original tenant from 1981, and it closed in late 2017. This JCPenney location is original to the mall and opened in 1981, and it looks a lot like the one at Huntington Mall that I'm a lot more familiar with. This is a former Leggett, now Belk. I love going to these older out-of-the-way malls and seeing design motifs I had forgotten about, and this tinted glass awning is just perfection. Crossroads Mall opened in April 1981 and was anchored by Leggett, Sears, and JCPenney. Really, over the years, the anchor lineup has remained remarkably steady, with the only changes being Leggett's acquisition by Profits and then Belk, and Sears closing to be replaced by a Rural King. One thing I don't think the camera captured is whatever paint or coating they used on the ceilings has mica in it, and the skylights have a little glitter in them. It's a nice effect. 10 out of 10. I wish you could see it better in the video. I mean, overall, the aesthetics in here seem to be fairly original to 1981. The floors definitely feel like the early 80s, and so do the planters. The mall was developed by a partnership spearheaded by Ralph Birnbaum, an influential developer at the time who was once the president of the International Council of Shopping Centers. It's a common misconception that this mall was developed by Crown American, who did purchase the mall from the partnership in 1998, holding on to it until 2003, when Crown American's retail portfolio was sold to Priet. Priet held on to the property until 2017, when they offloaded this and Beaver Valley Mall in Monaca, Pennsylvania, referring to them as non-core properties. At that point, it was sold to Namdar, and that's a neutral fact I am presenting without further commentary. I will take this opportunity to recommend, if you like this video, go take a gander at my St. Louis Mills video from 2019. Maybe you'll dig it. This mall is small, in a small market, but it's doing very well. Malls in West Virginia, in general, are doing fairly well because they have next to no competition. Finding a plot of land flat enough to build a mall on in this state is a tall order, so we don't have the issues with oversaturation a lot of other places have. I'm looking at you, Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. And I don't know, there's just an energy in here that feels like the mall did 15 years ago. This was a Friday afternoon right before Easter, and I presume a lot of kids were on spring break, and this place is pretty hopping. People are excited to be here and walk around, and that's not something I see at every mall I visit. The most delightfully retro thing in this mall is the energy of the other patrons. What we don't have in West Virginia is an abundance of archival news articles, and every time I cover a mall here, I end up gnashing my teeth in frustration at the dearth of information available. Among the only articles I was able to find about the mall were from earlier this week, June 1st. The mall was evacuated due to what progressed into an unconfirmed emergency, which turned out to be an irritant in the air that most of the officials think was pepper spray. There's no word on whether the discharge was intentional or accidental or what happened to cause it. The mall was evacuated because they smelled pepper spray. I was able to find an old lease plan from 2003 that confirmed that the Dick's location here that opened in 2011 was carved out from former inline spaces and did not replace another anchor-sized tenant. The list of vacated tenants is like a who's who from your high school days if you're a millennial. Among the tenant spaces that became Dick's were KB Toys, FYE, Walden Books, Radio Shack, and Payless. The gang was all here, folks. Now let's go take a peek inside a little itty-bitty mall, the Plaza Mall, which was dedicated in 1970, 5 years after the plaza it was attached to opened. Beckley Plaza was developed by a company you may know for some of their enclosed malls, Zamias. It may be a bit of a cliche to talk about hidden gems, but if you didn't know this was here, you would be unlikely to just happen upon it. The majority of this little hallway mall, a mallway, if you will, seems to be owned by the Harvey family, and they have storefronts for several businesses in here, as well as a sign shop and a tire place. I sure would love to know what this white mid-century colonial storefront was originally. It's really cool. Whoever makes decisions about what happens in here seems to have really taken care to make this seem welcoming and tranquil. The majority of this isn't original, but it's just really nice. At a time when malls are removing all their comfort and convenience features that don't explicitly turn a profit, it's kind of heartening to see a mall-like space that someone just wanted to make into a nice place to sit down for a while. What a novel idea. Thank you for coming along on this adventure with me today. I know this is very, very new and different, and I promise the malls aren't going anywhere. We're not leaving anything behind, but our world at UniComm is getting bigger. So let me know what you thought, and if this is something you want to see more of. I'm absolutely on the edge of my seat about how this will be received. I've been thinking about making a video like this for 3 years. No matter what happens, I'm thankful for every one of you, especially if you made it this far. See you next time, wherever the road takes us. Good night.